I'm happy that we are able to connect with the colleagues around the globe as well, and continue the discussion on the next commitments that we agreed upon in Brazil. So just going through the agenda very quickly, we just had a round of introductions, but if it could happen that some of our colleagues, other colleagues may join us online, so they will have to introduce themselves at some point. Also, if you want to speak, perhaps you can raise the little hand there, device, and we will click here, and you will be able to engage with us as well. So next we're going to hear from Indran on the Evaluation Office's vision for National Evaluation Capacity Development. After that, I'm going to go through a little bit of a recap on the NEC conference and the commitments, the 18 commitments signed in São Paulo. Then after that, we're going to have some of our partners present on their contribution to the 18 commitments. We'll have Eval Partners presenting. Tassi Kassambas is here, will present together with Marco Segoni on the strategy and the contributions from Eval Partners. Also, we're going to hear from Diana Sawyer and the colleagues in Brazil for their strategy with the Evaluation Office and the International Policy Center for Inclusive Growth. We might have to wait a little bit to hear from Jennifer Colville. She is the representative from the Bureau for Development Policy. She's going to have to step out in a few minutes, and then she will come back and make the presentation when we start the session at 10:45 on unpacking the 18 commitments. When it's where we're going to ask from all of you to engage in this discussion on what are the contributions you can add to these commitments, what initiatives you or the different partners and stakeholders that you engage, what are you involved in or considering working on that could contribute to the commitments. So we'll have a bit more than an hour there to hear from you, not only on what you can bring, but what we can also offer in different ways, all partners involved in this. Then we're going to wrap up and make sure we go through the next steps to close the agenda. So if we don't have any questions, perhaps we can start with Indran, go to his presentation. Yes, they do.
Good morning again, colleagues. We've put together a few slides to try and capture the essence of the vision for NEC, but also looking at the period 2013 to 2015, the next 2 years. I'm going to talk on the following. First, the NEC journey, as we call it, because this event has started a few years ago. What have been the achievements, what we consider to be the new NEC operating principles, which was put in place in Brazil, and some thoughts in terms of looking forward. Going to the essence, in the 2006 UNDP's evaluation policy has a mandate within it to promote enabling environment for national evaluation capacity development. And in 2009, the first event was held in Morocco with 55 participants from 30 countries. In 2011, it was held in Johannesburg, participants from 20 countries. And in 2012, we reviewed the entire approach towards NEC. What we do was, in 2013, the NEC approach and strategy. Whereas previously it was just the evaluation office and a partner country, we now explore the opportunity to have the evaluation office, a partner country, plus a key network that would bring in civil society, which previously was not there, and professionals, the vote. And that led to the event 180 participants drawn from 83 countries, which was in Brazil. It was also significant in that we used new technology to ensure that the event was beamed and Facebook and Twitter across the globe. So literally there were thousands of people actually observing the event, which also made it the largest evaluation event in the UN system. This came at a good time because you had EvalYear, which had announced for 2015, and what we consider to be the key achievements of the event is that there was a lot of high-quality engagement, both at post-conference, in terms of what we call the NEC community of practice. The NEC 2013 conference had a programmatic side of the House and partners. We had over 100% increase in geographic coverage. It was live broadcast. We had interactive modalities of engagement and knowledge exchange. And the most significant of the 18 commitments were very action-oriented towards South-South solutions focused. One of the criticisms that has been leveled against the previous NEC was no one was sure what happened after it. It was a conference like any other conference. So we took this to heart and with the help of BDP and Eval partners, completely reconceptualized the manner in which the conference was held. So it was a very interactive discussion to ensure there was ownership, which led to these 18 commitments. We have produced within 3 weeks of the event a brief report with all the online links which you would have received, and that is being beamed across the globe. We're in the process now of working on the proceedings, which we will do in 4 languages, the English, French, Spanish, as well as Portuguese, and we should have all that ready within the next 2 to 3 months. So, apart from the written document, we also want the community of practice to remain, and I'm very appreciative to the colleagues from all over here, BDP, etc., for helping us to think very differently on how to engage in NEC. This was not a classic conference of people giving speeches and a few questions. The participants made the event, and I think it showed quite clearly in the conference evaluation, which reflects that apart from not wanting speeches during the lunch break, everyone was very appreciative of the high-level interaction. And we only did because of the solid partnership we had with the excellent working relationship with colleagues around the table, and to get national ownership of the process and results. So the government of Brazil, and in particular Paulo Januzzi, was an excellent co-host, and as you would have seen, we worked extremely well, which is already leading to something very practical, which Anna will talk about in the next few months, in concrete actions on the ground to really build capacity where it counts. There's also been clear follow-up and reporting on developments, and EvalYear was launched in terms of continued momentum. It is fortunate that when it was launched and in the declaration of Chiang Mai, this has now gone to the next step, and we are reinforcing what is already in place. So when we talk about a journey, we're really building on synergies that are also there, because as Marco also remarked, we're much stronger as a group than alone. In terms of our operating principles, I've mentioned this, but what is critical, of course, is a very broad-based partnership approach, which Anna calls the candy floss, so we add on sugar as we go along. Professional networked engagement, because if we're talking about building the profession, we also need to invest in it. And we know that the professional capacity within the UN is inadequate, and that's a matter that this can support. A country driven as the essence of evaluation for public good was the key message, that evaluation should lead to real change on the ground, which is quite linked to the UN and UNDP and other mandates, development orientation. But also we spoke about multiple levels and pushed from multiple platforms. The weakness of the previous events is that nothing really happened between one conference and the other. You couldn't get it tangible. There may have been some discussions, but this makes it a lot more clear. And of course, to enhance capacities also in the region, the approach of the Lego blocks. We're talking about a continuous strategy for NEC. And of course, looking forward, we'd like these commitments that the participants put their signature to be implemented, reported, and evaluated, and we will fully support these commitments. We've already done that in terms of our signing of an agreement with the IPC, which we're very appreciative of, because we need to use existing infrastructure to build and build regionally, so everything is not New York-based. And our development approaches is really to be very real, contextual, needs real solutions in real time. We want the needs to be articulated by governments and society, and a support to accountability, but the main focus is on learning for purposes of public good. And we feel EvalYear will help to promote the evaluation culture at all levels. I just had discussion yesterday on terms of where NEC 2015 is going to be. We spoke to the Bureau, and there's two contenders, which is Sri Lanka and India. We'll wait to hear from the Bureau before we make a decision. But a decision needs to be made by January so that the planning can start. Because it's not that far off. In 15 months, we have the next event. But it's going to be in that region. So the Bureau will get back to us. And it'll be an event, once again, that we will work closely with the Bureau like we did the last event. And, of course, we've got new and renewed commitments post-2015 in terms of the EvalYear. Finally, I really would like to thank all of you for your partnership, collaboration, and commitment to the NECD. It's greatly appreciated. And what we are doing here is refreshingly new. And we know it's going to deliver something that is going to change the way the UN and other networks work around development evaluation. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. Okay. So I think we're right on time. I'm going to continue, go over a few more slides before we can open for an exchange. Just a second as Anish loads the presentation. So now that Indran described our journey so far, I will explain the origin of the 18 commitments, how we got to these 18 commitments during the conference. I'm going to also quickly go through the 18 commitments and then present how EO intends to move forward with this new vision for NEC towards the 18 commitments, but even beyond with the EvalYear as well. And then from there, I'm going to pass to the other partners so they can present how they see themselves involved and how they would like the rest of the House to engage in this process. Then we'll open for some questions and answers. So before I move into the commitments, I wanted to explain a little bit about how we got to the 18 commitments. So about 2 months before the conference, we launched in partnership with the Bureau for Development Policy, BDP, what we call a community of practice, the NEC community of practice. It was an interesting exercise, very challenging. We had very little experience in moderating a community of practice, and the colleagues in BDP were incredibly patient and resourceful to work with us. We had 3 dialogue windows and a number of questions, and we had moderators working with different contributions to bring to the conference more specific supply and demand ideas. So by the time we got to the conference, we could actually engage in a more productive way and not waste too much time in some of the discussions that we were able to do ahead of getting to Brazil. So that was very useful. From there, we were able to put together a very participatory methodology for the conference, where we had a moment of presentation with the main paper, the thematic paper, and then we moved into what we called solution forums, where we had more specific questions for the different participants to engage in separate tables and then come out of there with specific proposals. With 4 solutions linked to the 3 themes of the conference. That was independence, credibility, and use of evaluation. So by the time we got to the last day, we had a very concrete list of ideas and a list of people interested in cooperating to implement those ideas. And that's how we got to those 18 commitments. So just to go through the commitments one by one, of course, we're going to discuss a bit more with all the colleagues in Brazil and here and in different parts of the world, how they're going to contribute. But I feel we have to go through some of these so you understand exactly what came out of that. So the commitment number 1, the idea was to develop and implement a transparent results-based monitoring and evaluation framework to track the efforts and results of the implemented commitments proposed in the conference. So for this, from our side, the Evaluation Office side, we put together a partnership with the International Policy Center for Inclusive Growth in Brazil. It's a UNDP Global Mandate Center. They are going to organize a M&E framework to track all our contributions, to list and to monitor these contributions in this system. So in the commitment to collaborate to build and strengthen credible national data systems to improve the integrity of such systems in order to better link performance of policies and programs. For this, we have a partnership, a continued partnership with the Ministry of Social Development and Fight Against Hunger in Brazil. This was mostly their proposal to put together a conference on statistics data systems in Rio next year in around September. We're still confirming the date, but this is one of our proposals with the ministry and IPC. The commitment 3, develop systems to promote the transparent follow-up of evaluations, such as management response tracking systems and citizens communications that allow for effective monitoring of the implementation of the evaluation recommendations. This is something that we have installed in the house in UNDP. All our evaluations recommendations get tracked. The management has to present a response for each of our recommendations, and that gets tracked. So that is very important at government level as well, and we were hoping to at least facilitate a discussion in the community of practice where the different participants and other partners can engage and tell us of experiences around the globe for this kind of work, of following up on recommendations. Commitment 4, study the alternatives, assessing the pros and cons of different options of institutional setups for evaluation, such as national evaluation policy or legislation, or different ways of promoting evaluation in the different countries. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of discussions happening around what are the pros and cons of having a national evaluation policy. So we feel that the contribution from our side, from UNDP, together with the International Policy Center and other partners, is that we can at least facilitate a conversation, a dialogue in the community of practice where we can engage in a discussion about the pros and cons of moving forward with a policy or not moving forward with an evaluation policy. We have the commitment from our colleagues in the EvalYear Secretariat. They're also very much involved in these discussions about national evaluation policies, and they will be bringing next year a conference or a seminar to discuss this topic, possibly in Sri Lanka. I imagine we're still debating. But we are also offering at least a dialogue, a facilitation of a community of practice dialogue to also discuss some of this. So by the time we go to the conference or the seminar, we already discussed some of these issues in the community of practice and in different forums. The commitment 6, create and strengthen parliamentarian forums for development evaluation in different regions to advocate for use and conduct of evaluation. Also very much led by our colleagues from working with the parliamentarian forums in Sri Lanka and South Asia, actually. Also very much linked to the national evaluation policy, so they will bring more to us about this. It's there is a specific task force in Eval Partners that also discuss this inside of enabling environment conversations, so I'm sure they're going to bring more information about this, and the Evaluation Office and IPC are also involved in the discussion. Commitment 7, facilitate partnership cooperation between governments, VOPs, parliaments, and private sector initiatives to strengthen the understanding about what evaluation is and how it can be used for different actions. For sure, there are many partners as well willing to engage in conversations that facilitate partnerships. Commitment 8, develop approaches based on lessons learned on how to incorporate cultural dimensions into evaluation in different regions and national contexts. Commitment 9, develop standards based on lessons learned as well to ensure proper triangulation of evidence, checks and balances, and qualitative data in a way that ensures that it's not just perception-based, but it's solid based on real evidence that goes beyond perception. Commitment 10 develops standards based on lessons learned as well to ensure stakeholders' involvement in evaluations while still guaranteeing the independence of assessment. Of course, more and more, it's becoming very clear that we want, as much as possible, the engagement of stakeholders throughout the entire process of evaluation. But we have to keep an eye on how much of this, how we can do this in a way that it still guarantees the independence of the exercise. Commitment 11, develop, connect national registries, national statistical systems to monitoring and evaluation systems with increased frequency of data collection to support evaluation and decision making. Again, this commitment is very much linked to the commitment number 2 and the conference on the statistics that we will co-host in Brazil, in Rio. Have an online platform, the NEC Community of Practice, to present, exchange experiences, and keep the NEC participants connected and follow up on the commitments. That too, we will be working with BDP and IPC to restructure the current community of practice that will allow more engagement from different partners. But at the same time, I almost feel the need for something that we had before us, such as the EvalNet, a listserv where people can exchange information and requests, because my email is getting really packed. It keeps coming to me, but a lot of times I don't have the answer. So it would be much better if we could actually send this information in a broader listserv, and other people could contribute to the debate. It could be in the COP or perhaps outside the COP, but that's something we will be discussing as well. Commitment 13, translate material on evaluation into different languages.
I need the headphones.
It's often a challenge.
What's the phone now? The audio is coming from the phone.
Okay. So I don't need this.
No, it's from the phone. Okay. You can hear them through the phone.
Okay, yeah.
We're getting some interference here, but okay. So we've had a partnership before with our colleagues from UNEG and UNV. They've been helping us in translating some material to different languages. So that's also a discussion we will be engaging in the next couple of months to see how we can move ahead with more information being translated to different languages, because that is definitely a challenge depending on what region you are. Commitment 14, map and analyze effectiveness of coordination mechanisms and practices between central evaluation units and sector ministry units and local government evaluations. This is something that was also initiated during the conference, the different views. There are different views, and we need at least to offer the space, facilitate this dialogue, and perhaps not define what would be the best, but open a dialogue to discuss the different experiences. Commitment 15, support joint regional national events to take stock of developments in these commitments during 2014 especially, including the sharing and learning of good practices to validate data from multiple sources, manage sensitive data, and disseminate evaluation results. From our side, the evaluation office, we are hoping to organize at least a panel in each of the regional evaluation conferences. So, for example, AFREA, Red Lachman, different regions, the regional event of the year, we are hoping to count on the different partners to join us in a discussion about the NEC commitments, where IPC will also be present to track the different developments and to add the additional commitments and partnerships that develop from these engagements in the different regional meetings. Commitment 16, assign resources, a percentage of the initiative costs of a project or a program or a policy, for example, for the conduct of evaluation when designing, approving projects, policies, and programs. This is something that during the conference was discussed that we need from the very beginning of different initiatives to establish 50% percentages of how much will be directed to evaluation. Of course, I don't think we can come up with a number, but I think we can at least facilitate a discussion where individual countries or partnerships will arrive at a decision of when to do this and what percentage they would like to set aside for evaluation when in their different exercises. Commitment 17, use external evaluators to facilitate moderate self-assessment and reviews. There was a group discussing a lot of what we call the empowerment design of evaluations, empowerment approaches, where you can actually guarantee the independence of such reviews or self-assessments that happen in a much faster way, and you need every month or year. But the idea is to bring an external evaluator to also facilitate this kind of exercises and also ensure at least some level of independence and credibility to the exercise. And then our last commitment, 18, incorporate gender capacities and perspectives in monitoring and evaluation in national systems as well. Also, we started some conversations with women for some guidance. There are handbooks being issued and a very interesting discussion and very concrete methodologies on how to go about gendering or considering gender equality or gender equity focus on the different exercises that, for evaluation. So we went very quickly through all the commitments. So now going forward, the idea is really to promote this commitment and the 2015 EvalYear together in a way that this is how in 2013 we saw our contribution towards the EvalYear. In 2015. And the EvalYear very much around the focus that the idea is to promote the culture of evaluation, is to talk about evaluation and advocate for a more strategic thinking in a continued basis for evaluation. So very soon, we, throughout this year, we are formalizing partnerships to support this commitment. One from our side is the signature of this letter of agreement with IPC, and also a closer relationship with BDP and the different programmatic units, the regional bureaus, the country offices. We strongly believe that EO mandate is really to support an enabling environment, to open the space, facilitate conversations and debates around the different issues linked to evaluation. But when it gets to a point of implementing changes, working with governments, working with people on the ground, that is something that the evaluation office cannot be as much involved. That is part of our programmatic units, the regional bureaus and the country offices, and our partners in the different regions in the countries to implement. We will be there to support and advise, but we are not implementing bodies for the organization because in the end of all this, we come in and evaluate the process. So we have to keep some distance of the process. Very first step is to set up the monitoring evaluation system to track the efforts and results. We hope by early next year to have this operational. Launch the community of practice dialogues on each of the commitments. Of course, we won't do it all at once because people will get very tired of those dialogues. So we've picked around 7 to 9 commitments that we will focus next year. Of course, we also don't feel we have to address all the commitments ourselves. Of course, we expect different stakeholders to take leadership on many of these commitments, but some of them we are ready to engage. Identify South-South cooperation, the side of demand and link to the appropriate supply. We have some information already from the conference. During these dialogues, we will solidify some additional demands and supply and then link it to BDP and the regional bureaus and the country offices. So we will only be on the side of identifying and then linking it to you and the different partners as in civil society or in the different countries to help implement, always in a South-South solution mode, the initiative. And then ensure NEC engagement in each regional event. As we said, we are going to try to have a panel in every regional conference to report on how far we got on the commitments and talk about the EvalYear. but also ask for more contributions to the commitment. And then we're going to define very soon the host country and the theme for the NEC 2015 in Asia. No, it will be in Asia at least. So from here, we move into the implementation strategies, and for the next hour, we're going to talk and we're going to hear from the different partners. But from our side, I wanted to present our strategy, how we are going to go about implementing this strategy. As I mentioned, our implementation arm needs to be outside of our office for a number of reasons, but not separate from our office. It's something we will work together, but for EO's strategy, we have this partnership with IPC. So IPC will manage the exchange of knowledge in the communities of practice and events, of course in partnership with BDP, our different units, and EO. We'll develop a strategy to monitor the efforts of national governments and partners linked to the 18 commitments. We'll facilitate discussions on how partners can cooperate under the aegis of South-South cooperation to implement the commitments. We'll identify and follow up on potential cooperation among conference participants and other participants. At this point, we want to reach more people as well in different organizations. And IPC will also link interested parties to potential partners, donors, and UNDP programmatic units, but not only UNDP programmatic units. We really believe that the change that we were able to implement this year in Brazil is very much the result of a very close partnership with Eval Partners and other institutions such CLEAR and IEG World Bank. So we hope to be able to continue with this modality of engagement, of bringing more people, like the candy floss, and to get further. We really don't have means to cover the entire globe and the different issues in evaluation, so we definitely need to partner for that. So from here, I think we can move to hear from our partners. I know.
Okay, good morning to everybody, and first of all, really thank you very much to Indra and Anna for calling for this meeting, and obviously also for inviting Eval Partners. Perhaps I would like just to cover two areas. The first one is just a brief introduction about Eval Partners, because I'm not sure that all of you are aware of what Eval Partner is. And the second point would be really how Eval Partner can contribute to some of the 18 NEC commitments. So Eval Partner is the global partnership on national evaluation capacities. It has about 34 members. That includes IOC, that is the World Federation of the Voluntary Organizations for Professional Evaluations from all over the world, plus all the regional VOPEs. It includes UN agencies, so UNEC, UNDP, UN Women, UNICEF, UNV are members. It includes government from the north, for example, government of Finland, the US, Switzerland, Spain, but also the OECD DAC EvalNet is also a member, but also government from the south, for example, Mexico and Sri Lanka. It includes also private foundation like Rockefeller Foundation. It includes some universities and some NGOs. So the main objective of Eval Partner is really to strengthen national evaluation capacities. We have a conceptual framework that is very much aligned to the UNDG one when it comes to capacity development, and mainly it covers the three levels: individual capacities, institutional capacities, and enabling environment. For the individual capacities, Eval Partner has a knowledge management system already in place. We reached the 2 million hit this month. We also have e-learning in place, and we already got a total cumulative number of 16,000 registered people from 175 countries. And so I'm just going through it very quickly without giving too much details, but so that's more for the individual level. At institutional level, we are trying to strengthen the institutional capacities of the voluntary organizations for professional evaluations, and mainly we are doing that through peer-to-peer mutual support programs. That is a kind of a South-South cooperation, let's say, where we have 25 VOPEs from the 6 regions that they are supporting each other to strengthen their own capacities. We also have already launched 2 rounds of innovation challenges, and we got also very interesting proposals, and we supported 5 proposals, and now we just launched another innovation challenge on gender responsive and equity focused evaluation systems. At more at the enabling environment side, we are looking both at the supply and demand side, and mainly we are trying to strengthen the demand from policymakers, and that's why we supported the creation of the South Asian Forum of Parliamentarians for Development Evaluation. They are also doing a mapping of national evaluation policies, etc. But mainly, we are also coming up with a toolkit for each country to come up with their own advocacy strategy for an enabling environment for evaluation, and the toolkit is being produced by EvalPartner in partnership with UNEG and OECD DAC EvalNet. And the main initiative is really the launch of EvalYear, so the 2015 as the International Year of Evaluation. So that's just a very brief overall. If you want more information, you can just go to the myMNE.org and you will find all the information. Now, coming to the potential contribution to the NEC commitment, we can have a direct and active collaboration in at least 8 of the 18 commitments, and I will just go through it very, very briefly. So on the commitment number 3, develop systems to promote the transparent follow-up of evaluations, such as manager response tracking, etc. One of the innovation challenges that we selected is from South Asia, and they are exactly proposing, and they started to work on working with government from South Asian countries for them to come up with management responses for the evaluation of public policies. So that's one area where we could collaborate. Commitment number 4, when it comes to national evaluation legislation and policies, as I said, EvalPartner is supporting the Parliamentarian Forum that is carrying out a mapping of national evaluation policies, and then they will also organize, based on the funding of the mapping, they will focus mainly on South Asia with this regional workshop, really to come up with a strategy to strengthen the development of national evaluation policies in the South Asian countries. Going to commitment number 5, so expand joint peer-to-peer system among professional evaluation association and government evaluation unit. As I said, EvalPartner already has a peer-to-peer mutual support program. This year we are supporting 25 VOPEs. And we could explore the possibility of having the next peer-to-peer support program open also to really strengthen the collaboration between VOPEs and government. Commitment number 6, talking about the parliamentarian forums, where I already said EvalPartner really supported the creation of the South Asian Parliamentarian Forum. We are also working with AFREA, the African Evaluation Association, to support the creation of a parliamentarian forum in Africa. And the idea will be to do something similar also for Latin America. Commitment number 7, facilitate partnership and cooperation between government, VOPES, parliament, etc. That this is something that is central to the EvalPartner vision. So we would like to collaborate and support on this, and I think that the NEC conference in Brazil has been really an excellent example of what can be done. Commitment number 12, the online platform, the NEC COP, etc. EvalPartner has been already involved in the NEC COP before the Brazil conference, and of course, I mean, we will be interested in continuing to be involved, and we could even explore further collaboration between the NEC COP and the EvalPartner knowledge management system that, as I told you, already got 2 million hits, so it's already very well known all over the world. Commitment number 15, support joint regional national events to take stock, etc. in 2014. I will just refer to that one just in few minutes. And then commitment number 18, incorporate gender capacity perspective in the M&E national system. One of the specific focus of EvalPartner is really the focus on equity focus and gender responsive M&E national systems. So of course, I mean, we would be very interested in collaborating with this. And one opportunity that is already coming up is UNEC already is finalizing the development of the manual on gender responsive.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please?
I hope it's just a test. So just a second.
Just because of you.
To all the buildings on the fire alarm communication system. Please disregard any tone or alarm you may hear. This is only a test. I repeat, we are conducting tests on the fire alarm communication system to all the buildings. Please disregard any tone or alarm you may hear. This is only a test. We apologize for the inconvenience and thank you for your cooperation.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. It was just a test for the fire alarm, I think. So I was talking about the commitment number 18. So within UNEC, there is already a manual coming up on this, and we are exploring the possibility of coming up also with e-learnings and other strategies really to support gender capacity in M&E national systems. So that's just an overview of the 8 commitments where EvalPartner could contribute actively. But just one additional 2 minutes on the EvalYear, because I think that that's where we should really join forces. So EvalYear was already endorsed formally by UNEC last year in this year AGM, General Assembly, and we have a 2-tier strategy. We have a top-down and a bottom-up strategy. The top-down strategy is that UNEC is working with a group of mission states at the UN to try to get a resolution through ECOSOC or the General Assembly to get an official declaration on EvalYear. So that would be the top-down, let's say, strategy. But I think that perhaps even more interesting is the bottom-up strategy that is really to create a movement all over the world to support EvalYear. So, and that's already started. I mean, we already got UNEC that already formally endorsed. We got the official launch at the Brazil conference just a few months ago. Meanwhile, we already got Canada, Thailand, Philippines. They already also declared 2015 as the International Year of Evaluation within their own national evaluation conferences. And we have planned in 2014 to have similar discussions, etc., in all the regional conferences already that will be organized by the different regional VOPES. So we have Africa coming up in March, then we have the CIS countries coming up in September, and many more. EvalMENA, the Middle East coming up, I think, in June, etc., etc. So I think that the EvalYear is really where we should focus because as you said, and I mean the 18 commitment, the idea is really that they would contribute to EvalYear. We are preparing. We already have a website, and we are preparing also communication material. We already have, for example, the logos and some basic material available in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Arabic, Hindi, and German. And I think we should really work together, as we already started to discuss, to come up with a joint global event in 2015. Because what happened so far is that last year Eval Partner had a global event in Thailand. This year, where also UNDP was UNDP, other UN agencies, etc., were attending. This year we had the Brazilian conference. I think that we should work together in 2014 to support the regional conferences, and then really in 2015 to have I would say a truly joint global event to celebrate EvalYear. So that's, I think, it's from my side. I don't know, Tessie, if you have anything to complement.
Yes, I have a couple of comments to complement. So first of all, just kind of moving up at a higher level, I think this is a real game changer, this new way of thinking about global collaboration. And it's extremely exciting to be together with our separate roles. All these roles are needed. You cannot have national capacity without every sector being strong, and at the same time, some common goals. And as you presented, Anna, the commitments, I kind of affinitied them in 4 categories that worked for me, and then thought about the task forces that we have. They're a little bit different. My categories are promote evaluation use, numbers 2, 3, 6, 11, 16, 17. Define and strengthen evaluation process and methods, 8, 9, 10, and 18. Engage existing and new stakeholders in kind of energetic exchanges of different kinds, 1, 5, 7, and 15. And then explore different institutional structures for managing evaluation, 4, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And then Marco, we had not coordinated this, so Marco identified 8, and they belong to all of them. So the goals are common. We represent maybe slightly different parts of the, well, not slightly, different parts of the system, but that's exactly right. We're all needed. It's too big. So the thing that I want to kind of put forth in the discussion as we talk about all of these together is thinking actively and staying on top of the coordination, the communication. It's at a global level, so it's difficult. It's easy to stay within our comfort zones. And so how do we, tying to the bottom-up idea, how do we continue to think of ideas for reaching out to what's happening in the field, in the countries, and creating these exchanges that seem to spark all the energy. So very exciting possibilities. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we can move then and leave the comments for the next part. I think we can move with our colleagues from IPC.
Hello, colleagues. This is Jorge Chediek, the UN Resident Coordinator here and Director of IPC in Brazil. We sent a presentation with a lot of data on the IPC, which I will not go over. Actually, I would like you to share it very quickly with everybody, but I wanted to give some brief data points. The IPC was established as a result of a corporate agreement between UNDP and the government of Brazil. We have almost 10 years of existence, and it was created as a promote knowledge, particularly in social policies, and also the exchange of practices between developing countries. For that, we do a lot of things, including study tools, promoting and the production of publications. Among those services, we can mention we are about to reach 1,000 publications in the last 10 years. We have an email list of 28,000 people, and we have about 250,000 downloads of documents every year. So the center is a very well-respected and well-recognized facility for South-South knowledge, and also in terms of substance, particularly in social policies. We also have significant experience in evaluation. We are currently undertaking an evaluation on the social policy and the social protection systems in Yemen. We did evaluations in countries like Paraguay, Mozambique, and Brazil proper. We are also very much engaged in evaluating the national policies of this country, which, as you know, is in the forefront of development. So in that context, we agreed in the last few months, and we basically finalized an agreement to develop a strong cooperation with the Evaluation Office to help promote many of the objectives that Ana Rosa outlined in her presentation. For that, we already have a team of over 14 professionals. We have strategic partnership agreements with several Brazilian counterparts that are in a position to make available additional personnel. So we are in a position to hit the ground running, and we're extremely enthusiastic with this initiative because we feel we can make a very valuable contribution, and we agree with all our predecessors on the importance of evaluation in this critical time for international cooperation and for national social policies when they are being seriously questioned because of fiscal constraints. And we really feel that we have a very valuable mission, and we're ready to do everything we can to live up to your expectations. Now, from my part, I'll let my colleague Diana Sawyer to make some brief comments. And after that, we open the virtual floor for comments of Ajay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. Diana, espera só minutinho. We have another alarm here. Just a second.
Okay.
I know my comments were not particularly incendiary, so I'm very surprised.
They were alarming, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's gone. Go ahead, proceed. Sorry.
Are you sure? Okay.
Talk very close to the mic, as loud as you can there.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, Diana, sorry.
Is that okay?
Just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, let's try again. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, none of us had thoroughly explained and put forward all the commitments and activities that we're planning for those commitments. I don't think it's for me to go through all over again in this long list, but from the side of the IPC, we will commit to act to help or to promote three areas. The one area is in monitoring and do the final evaluation, with the participation, of course, with this COP platforms and contributions, and of course with help with all the partners. The other front is from the side of doing some sort of supporting for the seminars or the events that has been planned, like the regional conferences and that conference in Brazil and some others that have been planned, and that is mostly by funding people to participate in those meetings. And the third group is mostly promoting, coordinating, and putting forward the webinars and dialogues, and of course producing one-pager to be published all those 18 topics that Ana Rosa had put forward in her explanation.
And I think that's mostly all, and certainly you all have copies of the presentation, so we can have it more thoroughly, and we can have the tentative timetable also in that document. I think that's all. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Diana. Thank you, Jorge. Well, I think at this point we have scheduled space for BBP, but they had a very urgent last-minute conference, so they're going to come back and present a little later. So perhaps we can take a break now and then come back to hear from our colleagues' sides, the colleagues online and the colleagues here as well. You know, what initiatives are they involved or considering to engage, to contribute to this commitment? What are their ideas they can suggest we further consider to support national partners? And what other countries we should try to engage now in this process that you already know are committed to some of these interests? So perhaps can we take a 10-minute break and come back? Very good. Very good. All right, some coffee break, and we can connect again. Thank you. Go back and start hearing from our colleagues around the table and the colleagues online. The idea now is to hear from you what initiatives you and or your partners, stakeholders you work on a daily basis or not, are involved or considering being involved in any initiatives that could contribute to the commitments and the EvalYear. We also would like to hear from you what other ideas would you suggest for further supporting national partners as they work to fulfill this commitment? And what other countries could you help be engaged in the effort towards the commitment and the EvalYear? So we're going to start with Sergelin from the Bureau for Asia Pacific.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. Well, thank you so much for organizing this meeting, and of course we're proud to be having raised our hand on so many commitments. Because from Asia Pacific, that's another question that I have. From Asia Pacific, out of the 18 commitments, there were like 13 that were signed by our countries, you know. So I'm just hoping that it wasn't the moments sort of lapse, and that's why they signed their names, but hopefully it will be realized into firm sort of implementation of these commitments, you know. As we heard, two of the countries from Asia Pacific also suggested they would be the co-hosts for the next meeting, and we will definitely contact our respective country offices and tell you which is the better location, Colombo or New Delhi, you know. So we can do that. Now, the question that I had was, we keep mentioning Asia Pacific, but I did not see any participants from the Pacific, so to speak, you know. So my question was with regard to that. Secondly, with regard to the next conference, there was a discussion on the theme of the next conference, and it would be interesting to hear whether these themes have been agreed on, or maybe the process is a bit sort of takes place to define these themes, and it will be probably defined together with the hosts, etc., with other partners. That is something that I would like to hear. In terms of the commitments, so to speak, I'm not at liberty to say what our national governments and evaluation societies, evaluation communities would be able to accomplish or not. But however, I do see that there is a lot of enthusiasm and initiatives being shown. One thing that probably, and I see that there's a lot of involvement from the South Asia sort of countries, you know, both in terms of the Parliamentarians Forum. Also, the Evaluation Office hosted a workshop in South Asia this year. So there's a lot of activity going on there. Number 12, I was looking at the commitment number 12 with regard to the online platform, and if I understood you correctly, you're trying to define a system, an online platform where basically issues related to evaluation could be discussed among the COP sort of members, so to speak, right? In Asia, we do have a solutions exchange, which is a online system, which is basically community of practice, not necessarily one specific community of practice, but various thematic sort of practice members. They would basically have a query run, and then the members of that community would be responding with solutions on how to go about it, exchanging views, sharing their best practices, etc. So that could be potentially a platform which is already existing, and that could continue into basically facilitating or helping support the implementation of commitment number 12, So I thought that was a good thing. With regard to other commitments in terms of UNDP and UNDP programs, so to speak, we are, in a sense, taking a strong approach towards the indicators, defining performance indicators, baselines, etc. And this process is going on together with the formulation of the integrated resource framework for the strategic plan, as well as our regional and country level programs. So I saw a commitment, I believe which number it was, but it talked about enhancing the capacities of national statistical systems. That was commitment number 11, which you said is very strongly linked to commitment number 2. So this is one thing that basically we would clearly support through our country and regional programs, because through enhancing the national statistical systems to basically monitor the impact that the development programs may have on the ground, we believe it is a very important commitment, and I'm happy to see that a number of countries signed on. Oh, sorry, it's only one country that signed on that one. Yeah, one country from Asia Pacific. On number 2, there's 2 countries, but there's a repetition there. So that's good to see. I was a bit bedazzled to see that under 17 and 18 there's no sort of signatory, so to speak.
Oh, the problem is we didn't put a poster there, so some of these had plenty of people, but the poster wasn't up for them to sign.
I see.
So there's a little of a...
Okay. Because I would definitely see these as important commitments, especially, for example, if you talk about commitment number 17, use of external evaluators to facilitate moderate self-assessments and reviews. This is very important, because in UNDP we do have a lot of sort of annual reviews, self-assessments being on, and you rightfully pointed out these are speedier than having a full-fledged sort of evaluation or assessment. And therefore, bringing in an external eye to facilitate that, it would be extremely important, at least for our programs, so to speak. And I do believe that this also applies at the national level. Also, gender capacities perspective, UNDP has already a tracker, sort of a gender tracker, and probably BDP will be talking more about that. But, okay, now I understand why there were no signatories against those 2 commitments. Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's great, thank you. And perhaps we can continue and leave it to the end. I have just a few, or perhaps we should clarify some of the points ahead of time. Or, well, perhaps just about the COP, the commitment 17. What was that? The commitment 12. We do have a community of practice already for the NEC. But the way we operated is that we had a specific goal. The discussions that happened in the COP was to get to the conference. So what we were hoping is to turn that COP into something about like what you said, more solution focused, more demand driven, so supply demand oriented, to then project into something concrete. But we definitely should join forces with what you already have. So we'll discuss this with IPC and BDP, how we can join. I think about the theme, how we're going to go about selecting the theme, perhaps we can discuss this a bit later, because it's not defined yet. It happened in different ways in the past, but perhaps we can have a discussion about this too. I think that was it. Perhaps we can move to the other colleagues and come back.
Sure. Thank you.
Oh, so let's press the microphone that way.
I think we have one here.
Oh, you do? Great.
Yep. Hello, my name is Tamina. I'm a evaluation focal point from Regional Bureau for Europe and CIS countries. Though we had only 3 countries represented at the NEC conference, I would like to briefly update you about RBAC activities in the region in terms of monitoring and evaluation. We have been actively engaged with national counterparts in a range of sectors to build up their M&E capacities. For instance, in Bosnia, we have helped, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, we helped to establish the Evaluation Association, which has been established with the help of UNDP, and one of the first activities of the association is the organization of the high-profile certified M&E training. And the association has been established in 2012, and already in 2013, more than 100 participants went through these trainings and got the high-profile certified M&E certifications. Offices across the region have helped ministries to strengthen M&E frameworks in national strategies and develop methodologies for impact assessment. Country offices in RBAC region provided M&E training for government and other program stakeholders. For instance, in Uzbekistan, which is a very politically closed country, we helped to develop an evaluation culture. Government-affiliated think tanks are increasingly involved in national policy making by providing evidence-based policy research. UNDP is also providing technical assistance to support selected strategies and advocate at political and policy level to raise awareness about the importance of results-based monitoring and evaluation to ensure its acceptance and use in key decision-making centers. The new UN Republic of Moldova Partnership Framework Action Plan 2013-2017, which was signed with the Prime Minister, is embedded in national M&E system. In the spirit of delivering as one, the action plan foresees deepened and systematic interaction of the UN team with the National Sector Coordination Council, which are important mechanisms between government and development partners. We are also undertaking joint monitoring field visits with national partners in several offices. It is envisaged that greater involvement of national partners in the monitoring of the program results will enhance their M&E capacities. In terms of question number 3, what other countries could help be engaged in the effort towards the commitments and the EvalYear, we would like to propose Turkey, which is now becoming very active in terms of incorporating monitoring and evaluation plans into their national development strategies. So I can send you more information about Turkey, probably some other proposals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Turkey couldn't make it to the conference in the very last minute.
Yeah, Turkey and Kazakhstan.
Yes.
Yeah.
The same with some of the Pacific, so you're right, we were not able to, that was one of our challenges the last time, was to bring the Caribbean, Latin America and the Caribbean. Now it's Asia and Pacific, and the Pacific has been a challenge. Thank you.
Well, I'm coming from Office of Audit and Investigation, so our role is a bit different. I'm a program specialist, and I work with mainly headquarters unit, but we also perform other audits. Now, our analysis of the key issues that we notice when auditing overall all the country offices globally indicated that among key issues, those most frequently appearing issues in our reports are, among others, issues of project management, underlying management, monitoring and evaluation. And that is nothing that we all are unaware of, that we need corporately to improve monitoring and evaluation at the both program and project level. On another side, Office of Audit decided to build up its capacity in terms of performance auditing, and we will be in a piloting test phase during 2014. We selected already few audits to be performed as a performance audit, not as a classical type of audit. This does not mean that we are switching to performance audits. No, we will just make our toolbox more interesting maybe, and then we can adjust to the certain situation and environment of the country office or headquarters unit, and then apply or standard type of audit that we were performing so far, or the performance one. The performance audit is looking more into economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, and then we already selected one topic that may be interesting for this group. Next year, my colleague and I, we are going to audit monitoring practices of UNDP. So we hope that through that work and cooperation with Evaluation Office, evaluation focal points, and reviewing monitoring practices in the organization, we would from our side contribute and then produce a report that may be eventually, hopefully, useful for all of us. So that's what we are planning to do.
Can say something about microphone call?
Oh,
yeah. Sorry. And my name is Jian from UN Evaluation Group, UNEC, and actually several people on the table already very familiar with it, like Inja and Marco, as director of the evaluation office in their organization, are UNEC members. And then this being said, which means actually UNEC and NEC will actually already work closely. And UNEC is going to have a new strategy soon, which is planned to increase its partnership with outside partners and organizations. So I think there's an opportunity there to bring this issue back to UNEC to discuss on strategy level. And the other things I can think is like Marco mentioned about the EvalYear, which UNEC is already involved to get the UN resolution on it. And next year, the UNEC annual general meeting is going to hold in Bangkok, and there will be evaluation practice exchange seminars. And there's a possibility to talk about evaluation in the field or about national evaluation capacity development, and these are the possibilities I have in mind.
Perhaps we should call our colleagues online and come back. Who wants to start? The colleagues online would like to speak?
Maybe you can say your name.
Yes. I can't see some of your names from here, but I can see here Diodone, Inca, Jim, Olivier, Rita, Roberto, Sasha, Jimena, and there are others that just say user number. So, okay, Inca raised her hand. Inca, go ahead, please.
So basically, to briefly explain what we have, what kind of steps have been taken forward in Latin American region, and basically some of the issues we wanted to raise that might be some ideas for mutual collaboration also inside the organization. So basically, already before the NEC conference, in the annual, in the second meeting of the regional community of practice on evaluation in Latin America and the Caribbean region, basically the whole issue of NEC was raised as one of the priority action lines for the regional community of practice. We've been waiting for these excellent summaries on the NEC conclusions, and the next step within the community of practice was basically to arrange virtual meeting webinar to share the basic commitments and the conclusions of the NEC conference, and take some of the first initiatives up and have the initial discussions between the country offices in the region. This webinar, it would be excellent that we could also count with the support of the evaluation office. We are planning for the mid-December, more or less. Some other initiatives we are planning is basically the first week of December. We have the meeting or conference of the regional network, REDLAC-MEC, the regional government-based network on monitoring and evaluation, and we are assessing how we can participate to that meeting and raise up some of the initial discussions on the commitments and start the discussions and follow up the discussions at the regional level also with the governmental counterparts. In addition, we are working quite strongly with other UN colleagues through the regional evaluation advisor groups we have here in Panama. Especially, we have some joint initiatives on UN Women. UN Women has taken lead in the region together with CLEAR on putting forward some of the investigation on the institutional side on evaluation function. So there are quite nice piece of papers coming out of those initiatives, and we are joining these initiatives as partners as always. One additional initiative that also we have at the moment ongoing is our participation as UNDP to re-establish the Caribbean sub-regional network for the English-speaking Caribbean. This is something we are brokering. Basically, our role as UNDP is to broker, to bring the actors together. We are working on that with the Caribbean Development Bank and with RELAC, with the other regional network on evaluation and systematization. So these are some of the initial actions taken in Latin American region. And basically what I want to re-emphasize is the importance of and the potential of the use of the regional community of practice on evaluation in the region as mechanisms to follow up on the commitments. And this is something that all the country offices have also expressed their commitment in the region. So this is quite nice way forward. What we have analyzed basically on the commitment side of basically the different governments who participated in the NEC conference, they were especially interested in commitments number 2, 4, 7, 8, 10, and 11. And after our analysis on these commitments, basically there's this whole issue of promoting evaluation culture and the demand side of the evaluation in the commitment 7 and commitment 10, and we clearly see a role for UNDP on those commitments in the region. And also, obviously, we want to explore how to support the demand from the government of the region for the other commitments. So this is what we have shared at the moment, and we are eager to continue with the discussions with all of you.
Thank you, Inka. Thank you. Any other colleagues online would like the floor? Diodon? Rita, anybody? Please go ahead, Rita.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting me to participate also. I'm sitting in complete darkness in very, very wet Helsinki, because this is what November here in Finland means. But it's been an inspiring meeting. Just a few scattered points at this time. Well, first of all, Finland has been a partner in the last 2 NEC conferences, and I fully agree with the nice analysis that Indran did in the beginning. There is an impressive change in the approach when it comes to the conference, and then also this effort to reach beyond the conferences and find the appropriate partnerships for implementing at country level, because that is of course where the real test is when it comes to the success of this process. So we are very happy to be partners in this and ready to support in any way that is possible for us. It's not very clear yet what that would mean in practice, but some ideas when it comes to thinking about the future involvement. My first comment came from me as a representative of the Finnish ministry, but I also want to refer to the OECD DAC and the EvalNet. EvalNet will have the next meeting in February. The dates are 12 and 13, and we have initially, tentatively also planned a meeting of the Evaluation Capacity Development Task Team for the 14th, but that has not been confirmed yet. But I just want to mention these dates because obviously when there is need and room of a partnership with OECD DAC donors, this February meeting is an important opportunity to again bring the issues on the table and particularly rediscuss the issue of the EvalYear and the role that the OECD DAC would have in that process. So that's the second issue. Then some details and issues. I've been both when working together with the NEC process and working together with Eval partners as a representative of a bilateral donor agency. I often think that what's actually the role that we could have here? What is the discussion where we could be involved? And of course, one role is very clear. Financing will be needed for taking evaluation capacity development forward at country level, and that's the natural role. But what else is there? What else could we do as partners? And it would be a good idea to me, and I have proposed this previously, also to focus the discussion on what are the partnerships between these national processes and then bilateral donors. One technical detail when it comes to financing, many of the issues that will come out of this process are relatively small scale. And when I put my donor brain in my head, then I must say that there must be a way to contribute not on individual initiatives, but with a broader strategy when it comes to implementation. Eval partners have been able to resolve that issue because it is a continuous process, a continuous initiative. And then my final comment, and that is on one of the commitments and one of the initiatives, and that is the analysis and mapping of the role of national evaluation policies and strategies and legislation, so on and so forth. And I to me personally, and also to some colleagues that I discussed it with, this is a very interesting analysis because I think it's a good idea to also analyze options and not go for one single model. So nothing very coherent this time, but these are the immediate ideas that come to my mind when I participate and listen to the discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rita. Very good. Yes, Rita has been raising this opportunity of facilitating a forum that we can discuss the different roles for donor participation in this process. So we definitely need to follow up on this, and perhaps we can facilitate a webinar or a community of practice to get started and see how we can move from there. Definitely very important. Finland today is our only donor at the table because it's been mostly very much involved in not only with NEC but also with Eval partners and everything that we work together. But we have different donors that are less involved but also with a great potential to contribute. So we'll definitely follow up on this. Thank you, Rita. Other colleagues online, would you like the floor?
Morning, Rita. It's Indran here. I think the point you raised about the meeting from the 12th to the 14th, the EvalNet OECD DAC meeting, is quite important because we really need to think what it means, as you say, in terms of partnership moving forward. So I will be at that meeting, but before the meeting, it would be important to canvass views from the other colleagues, especially EVAL partners, and others, so that, including UNEC, so that we have a sort of common position at that point before we take decisions on the matter. Because what you say is quite right. We want to not just have discrete interventions that don't take us anywhere. We want something that is much more coherent and eventually has a life of its own, so it's sustainable and also gets entrenched in terms of the UNDP, obviously, within its programs, but more broadly in terms of government and the broader evaluation community that also needs to happen. We can't do it alone. So I'm going to follow up with bilateral discussions with Tessie and Marco and yourself before the February, which is not that far off, so that we have some options on the table at that stage. Maybe Marco has something.
Perhaps just very quickly, I see a key role for donors to play, and that is really to advocate and make clear to different stakeholders that you are really prioritizing to joint initiatives. So, and this should be a strong message, not only to those of us in this table, but even to the board members, etc. I mean, the more this message comes also from the donors, that they will also, when it comes to funding, they will prioritize joint initiatives, and the more it will be easy for us to really work together in a meaningful way. And just to say, also just to add that also the ECG, that is the network of the multilateral banks, they've been very much involved in all this discussion about EvalYear and also EvalPartner. As a matter of fact, the African Development Bank is also a member of EvalPartner, but also just a few days ago, UNEG and EvalPartner sent out a joint letter to the ECG members, really to invite them to join the EvalYear movement. So we are really trying to reach out also the multilateral banks. And also Caroline Hyder, who is the director of IG, she was also in the EvalPartner event in Chiang Mai. So I mean, they are not sitting here today because they had their own meeting, and so there was a conflict in the dates, but they are also involved, even if as of today informally, not formally, but we are trying really to work also with the multilateral banks.
Thank you, Marco. We have Nanti from the Africa Regional Bureau here. Nanti, I'm sorry you missed a big chunk of the meeting. We covered the 18 commitments. We've heard from our colleagues in IPC that will be helping to facilitate the implementation and the monitoring of these commitments. Our colleagues from the different regions also discussed with us potential interest in We have Nanti from the Africa Bureau.
Who is there on that side?
We have the other side, Unka, colleagues from EvalPartner and EvalYear, and Jordan from UNV, Rita, our partner on the government of Finland, and a few others that I can't really identify the names with the users.
I may be not coherent, but I will try to address as much to the extent possible what has been Regional Bureau for Africa's commitments in this to this effort of national capacity development. as far as I can tell, ever since I joined there, even my job description, this was one of the key elements. Thou shalt help national capacities to develop. So we have been at various fronts of supporting. I cannot say that there was a strategic approach to this, but at the same time there was commitment and to the extent possible a devotion to this effort. Both at the two regional centers we had at the time, regional center in Dakar and South Africa. Many countries have sought UNDP's help in terms of building capacities, as Marco here would attest. UNICEF has been a leading partner in this effort throughout, and their presence has been greatly acknowledged by many evaluators in the Africa region. AFRIA, the Africa Evaluation Association, regional association, has been supported by UNDP also in many occasions. In fact, regional advisors have been on the advisory panel of AFRIA to develop their program and so on and so forth. In addition to that, on a demand basis, we have tried to help countries, the latest one being Chad, as Anna would know. They are trying to have a evaluation association, and evaluation advisor in Addis has been in touch with them to support how they can start up a evaluation association in the country. Similar efforts have been made in so many other countries as well. The biggest effort, as many of you would know, is in Benin with World Bank, EU, and UNDP. We have been supporting the government to establish an evaluation of public policies within their public sector. Malawi and many other countries, I can't remember all the countries off the top of my head, have sought and benefited from UNDP support. Having said that, I would also say that we are very glad that a concerted global outlook can be achieved through conferences that have been organized by EU. This is a very important step in exchanging ideas, bringing in experiences, best practices, and so on. And I'm glad that it is being followed up through these commitments and actions, and not just stopping at the level of conference itself. We would also like to see more corporate commitment to this exercise through regional bureaus, because we are more directly involved in this. And I must say that among the other commitments we have, including the capacity development of our own offices in UNDP, which is greatly demanded by the board now, we are also mandated by the board to support the national country efforts. So the resources we have are hardly sufficient to even begin to address this enormous challenge. We have to go hand in hand. On the one hand, we are accountable to the public at large and to the governments as to how efforts have been successful or not. To that extent, until the national capacities are built up, UNDP has to bear that load. To that extent, UNDP should be able to evaluate the programs as well, but without losing the sight that eventually the countries should be evaluating our programs, and they should have the capacity to do so. So we have to have a multi-pronged approach. One, on the regional level, we have to strengthen AFRIA in the Africa region, for instance, if I have to speak from that. And then to support the national governments to strengthen their efforts, and not only the governments, but also civil societies in terms of evaluation associations, which are trying to come up in that country, in respective countries. We have to be able to support them to build up. And in addition to, of course, carrying out our own activities, and in that we have some small steps taken through our own practices, evaluation practices. We try to strengthen the ability of the national partners to strengthen their own capacity. So when we conduct the evaluations, we make sure that some level of capacity transfer occurs across the board. So these are some of the efforts we are taking, and some of the areas where we have to improve, and that will be a corporate commitment and prioritization of this effort, and resources dedicated to that in this era of budget cuts and limited resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Nanti. Okay, I think we don't have any more speakers. Unfortunately, our colleagues from BDP couldn't come back yet. But before we start our last round of comments, I wanted to mention, especially Nanti, that wasn't here in the beginning, Indran raised our strong commitment to support the House. Also, of course, we know we are under a lot of constraints and budget cuts, and but from our side, we really see the UNDP different programmatic units as the implementation arms. We are here to support and to advise and to help strategize and think, but when it comes to implementing concrete changes on the ground, you are the experts. And for that, of course, we have a number of ideas on how to collaborate. We're still in our role of facilitators for dialogues and to get to concrete solutions. But also, we would like to see all of you together with our partners that very much already speak our language, but we would like to see you be very closely involved in this. For example, we need colleagues going to those regional conferences and speaking on behalf of this partnership on the NEC commitments and the EvalYear. Of course, a lot of times we go and we have a strategic position and something to say at a technical level on evaluation, but it's different. We talk on evaluation, but sometimes national evaluation capacity development is a different public sometimes. It's a different audience. And we need you also to be able to count on you to go to these conferences and go to different moments that you can speak on behalf of this partnership for how to move forward on this commitment. Of course, we'll try to help as much as possible, but it really happens on the ground, and you'll get closer to the national governments and national civil society organizations working on evaluation. So we very much hope we can have you engage with us and take the lead of this eventually. It's really, you have a way of changing much more than we do. Okay. I don't know. It's really a pity that we don't have BDP. They've been a very strategic partner so far, and they have their own strategy on knowledge management and capacity development, innovation focused, and eventually we're going to have them come back and speak with us on how to proceed. But perhaps we can do another round of comments and conclude.
Well, I think it will be important if I understand that it's more with the other bureau, but I would imagine if you can just tell us a little bit more, how do you see the next steps? The way forward. What would be the mechanism, processes to?
Okay. Well, the way I see now, we're yet to understand what is BDP's role in the continuation of this partnership. But so far, they have been very strategic in bringing a system thinking focused on capacity development and sustainable knowledge management pursued through innovation. This idea of innovation can get quite confusing. Each one of us understands innovation in a different way, but they have thought that through already. So they keep coming back and trying to guide us in this process. They were also very much responsible for the changing methodology for the process complete, not just the conference, but the entire process. They were really the ones behind. They were the shadow facilitators in the community of practice. They really transferred a lot of this knowledge to us and to different partners that engaged in the community of practice, but they can do a lot more. Other than that, they are also a kind of a oversight unit or a support unit for IPC, for the center in Brazil, the International Policy Center. So I believe they will also work on providing some guidance for IPC on how they can engage with us and support the different partners in this process of monitoring, but also facilitating concrete action on the ground, be it linking the demands to regional offices or regional or local folks or the country offices or themselves taking the lead. They have a unit, a South-South cooperation unit here in New York, which Grace that you've met is the lead in this unit. They also have a number of connection and ideas how to pursue that. I see BDP as the initial point for South-South cooperation capacity development on the ground. How they're going to do this in the different countries, I imagine it's through the regional offices and the country offices, but I imagine they have a strategy. So we want to work with these three entities to make sure we're not jumping anybody and we're going in with their strategy. You know, before I go to a country office and tell them here is an association that needs to be developed, we need to make sure this is within our strategy as partners together, but also as a strategy that BDP and the regional offices have for the operation in different countries.
So I'm wondering if it might be helpful at this time to think a little bit about our vision for a joint 2015 conference, just kind of going at a higher level, and to have everyone think a little bit about this. I don't know if we have time to do it now, if it's a good thing to do now, or if it's at another time. But it seems to me that we ought to engage a little bit with us and other partners and these implementing partners who are not necessarily as closely linked to some of the conversations we've been having today, to think about what is a compelling vision? What is it that we want to achieve in 2015? What is it that ought to be happening at the conference? And start from those outcomes, and then, pull back from that about what the strategy ought to be to get there.
Great. If I may, just to tag on to what Nancy very clearly mentioned, and also you mentioned with regard to the regional presence, so to speak. Unfortunately, the colleagues from the regional center who are actually on the ground and more sort of involved in the overall programs, including evaluation function, could not attend this meeting. I think it was mostly due to the time difference, But we do have a UN EDAP, which is the Asia Pacific Development Network. Evaluation Network, Evaluation Development Network. And it is, again, with close collaboration with UNICEF, of course. And our colleagues in the Bangkok office have been extremely, active in that. On an annual basis, they do conduct training for our both the UNDP country office as well as the country team in the UN on UNDAF evaluations and how to make sure that the UNDAFs that are formulated are actually evaluable, etc. So they do conduct these trainings. So there's good work going on the ground. In terms of, the sort of regional presence, you probably all of you are aware that UNDP is going through the motions of a structural adjustment, basically, So that process will take us probably way into 2014, etc. That way, basically, the basic definition of whatever roles, functions would be performed at the headquarters level versus whatever roles, functions that would be performed at the regional level would be defined. So, in a sense, institution-wise, we may or may not be ready to accept the total responsibility and the commitment, so to speak. But basically, that is what I see in the future for the next year at least. Yeah.
Thank you. We have our colleagues from BDP back right in time. We've proceeded to the specific questions, what kind of contributions, and we've been listening to different colleagues from different regions. And Tessie also raised the point that if perhaps we could use this time to also think of a vision. What's the vision we have for the EvalYear and for the NEC conference in 2015, and what's the space to think this as we are here working in developing a joint strategy or a joint collaboration effort, if we shouldn't also think of how to continue this effort in 2015 for the conference and the EvalYear joint or not, or what's the vision for the future. But perhaps we can go back a little now that we have Jennifer and Romulo here from BDP. I did try to explain a little bit about how we start to see the role of BDP a little bit, but of course we would like to hear from you.
Thanks, Anna. Apologies for stepping out, but here we're back. Okay, do I have to hold this thing? All right, so without the benefit of having heard what everybody else has said, we'll go ahead and jump in with what we were thinking about. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Evaluation Office for bringing us on board with the design of the conference and then looking forward as well. We're very excited to be working with the Evaluation Office on this. So I think what we'd like to do is, well, first play to our strengths and talk a bit about what we might be able to contribute in the area of kind of fostering online platforms for knowledge management and exchange, for fostering South-South cooperation amongst the signatories of the commitments, and maybe pushing a bit on the innovation agenda as well. So bringing some innovative approaches to the national partners as they're working through their commitments, and ourselves as well, for that matter. So I think that there are a number of areas where we had some specifics, and I don't know if people were going into specifics. Okay. So first is the idea of kind of working with the Evaluation Office and others to design the community of practice, the online platform, going forward. So we worked together to put the pre-conference platform together. How do we then translate that or to morph that into what happens after? So we obviously want to kind of continue an active dialogue going forward. Do we do that as kind of keeping the same kind of platform, or do we create a platform by commitment? And I think I heard you say you had identified 7 to 9 that you want to go forward with in 2014. So do we have communities for each commitment, or is there an overall community, and how does that work? So the idea of kind of designing and managing how that might look is something that we could foresee. And then kind of making sure that whatever that platform is, comes to life. And it really takes an investment of somebody was just talking about, animators of these communities, investment in people to bring the community to life, to reach out to people, to get involved, to ask the right questions, to bring the right experts in to prompt further discussion or what have you. But it's kind of a concerted effort to make a community work. And so I think what we would want to do is figure out a way to work with the Evaluation Office to manage that process from now through, I guess, through the January 2015, through the next conference. I mentioned the idea of bringing kind of innovative approaches to having communication happen, and I think it's communication certainly through the platform, but then maybe through the regional events that we're talking about, and also maybe we were kind of brainstorming on things like, well, first of all, we would want to use kind of the standard of whether it's online media of tweeting and through the platform and that sort of thing, but also maybe doing some kind of challenges, so innovation challenges on, if we take one of the commitments around, I don't know, engendering culture considerations or gender considerations into evaluation policies or data, putting that, formulating a challenge, a social innovation challenge around that with the country or within the country signatories.
and seeing how we might be able to generate ideas from a broader group of stakeholders in that process. Or if we wanted to put together what we're calling collabathons, bringing together kind of using design thinking to bring together different stakeholders to collaborate over, say, a 6-week period to get to a solution. So I don't know, some different ways of thinking about getting to solutions or generating ideas to begin with. The other thing that we were thinking about was coming from the Bureau for Development Policy, was thinking about what we're calling seed content. Similar to the Innovations in Monitoring and Evaluation paper, is coming up with a kind of I don't know whether a signature piece of research or policy paper or something that kind of seeds the discussions in these particular areas. And I don't know that we could commit to something across all 9 of the commitments that go in 2014, but we could work with the evaluation office if that were of further interest. And then kind of wrapping it all up, thinking about how we take the activities, discussions, progress that's made over the course of the next 15 months and turn that into something meaningful for the conference and for EvalYear. So kind of encapsulating, summarizing what comes out of this, the results of this, and turn it into an event that I guess was just as exciting as the one that was in Sao Paulo. So with good content generated, with kind of an exciting approach, and helping kind of shape that as we go forward into 2015. Is there anything else? Okay. Great. So obviously we need to kind of work with you and the various partners to kind of nail down the specifics, but those were some of the ideas that we wanted to bring to the table.
I have a question about that.
The microphone.
Well, I have two questions. You can answer it. But I'm just wondering about in terms of some of these ideas that are so exciting that you've described. In what ways were you imagining you will engage the real stakeholders who are not here to shape some of these ideas?
So we could almost, it kind of depends on how we collectively think about how these commitment, I don't know what we're calling them, the commitment groups, how they get formulated. So commitment commitment X has 10 countries. And so are we thinking that, like I said, we create a community amongst them and that there's kind of somebody's facilitating a dialogue and kind of facilitating their progress throughout the course of the year. I know that we've talked about IPC being, and I don't know if they've presented already, but talking about them kind of monitoring and evaluating progress over the course of the year. But how do we shape what it is that those commitment teams are going to be doing? Do we give them some kind of support in terms of, okay, you've got 15 months. Let's break that down into quarters. And what we would hope to see in each of your countries by the end of the first quarter, it might be, a work plan, or the end of the second quarter is a first draft of whatever the product is. Just kind of helping shape what that could look like. And then within each of those communities, there could be a facilitated dialogue about, okay, well, you know what you want to achieve. Let's think about some innovative practices or techniques to get to that within Ghana or Sri Lanka or South Africa or what have you, and leave it up to the group of signatories to kind of pick and choose what might be interesting to them, or whether they want to do that within their own country or as a group of 10, or because I'm not quite sure how the dynamics of each of the commitment teams is going to progress and how that's going to look. Because as I understand it, there's not each of the commitments isn't producing, or commitment teams isn't producing one thing. So there's not like a global policy that'll come out from each of the commitment teams, but it's more within each of the signatory countries. They're supposed to be working on something. And so what we can do is offer these techniques to help them work on it in their own country, and then maybe as a group as well. I don't know if you've got any other
Yeah, I think emphasizing that reiterative process where people work together and then also implement at the country level as well. But it really depends on timelines and the kind of outputs that the countries put in, the kind of outputs that the countries have at their level as well. It's very difficult to design a process without knowing exactly what the output would like that to be and how you want to measure that success as well. At 2015, what do you want the countries to be implementing, or what do you want the country's output to be? And once we know that, we can work backwards to create a process.
But I think that needs to be defined for each of the, say, 9 commitment areas. You know, what it is that your expectation might be, or probably more important, what it is that the country's expectation is. So they signed up to something that's, you know, relatively high level. You know, we're going to have a national evaluation policy, or we're going to have more gender-sensitive data, or whatever. So translating that into what it means in each of these particular countries would, I think, be a first step. And I think that we as a community would probably want to guide those discussions and provide technical advice as they have those discussions, so that they can come to kind of a more informed decision about what they want to do in country.
Thank you. We have 2 on the line to talk, but just to remember something you told me, some of the things you will start to make sense and become clear in our mind as the process progresses. So a lot of these things, our main role I see now is to be facilitators of that discussion to get to implementation of this commitment. So it will get clear, I imagine, as we start to engage back in the COP and to call back the participants and additional to be involved in thinking as a group and then as a country initiative. So
because each of them might have, the 10 signatories might have a different interpretation of what that commitment means in their country.
Jim?
Yeah, it's just an idea.
Mike is there?
Yes, here. It's just an idea when we talk about using online, and I'm just thinking, is it possible to put kind of all the resources together, because we have all different resources, documents, guidance, and learning courses, different things. Can we put all these together so national partners can go there to look for them, or at least they know when they need something where they can go to find help?
Like a resource center.
Yeah, something
for
like
documents.
As part of the online platform, and whether that's the NEC platform that exists already, or I don't know if you're envisioning, I'm sure there are other platforms as well, say the regional platforms or what have you, but if, like I said, if there's going to be an overall community of practice home, that would be a great place for it. And then, you know, I don't know if there's then going to be 9 sub-homes for each of the commitment teams. I don't.
Yeah, or just in general a place people can go and dig into something. If they cannot find, they know where to look for help.
Or even a link to UNEC.
Yeah, that's when they bring all these resources together.
Thank you. Nancy, you have comments?
Yeah.
Press the microphone.
These are excellent points. I must thank BDP for taking the initiative to centrally run the process. I want to deviate slightly from the concrete suggestions and look at some of the processes that we have to keep in mind in order for this effort to be successful. And we want this effort to be successful because this is a critical part of our existence, so to speak. First thing is, we obviously would agree to the idea that we should involve all the stakeholders. And the best way to do that is to go bottom up, which would require us to rely on people who are on the ground as much as possible, which would mean that you cannot avoid regional bureaus. They are a critical part of it. Unfortunately, Inka has left. But Asia Bureau, our Bureau, RBLAC, they have ears to the ground. We know exactly what is going on at the country level, the innovations, and so on and so forth. So UNDP should avoid the silo approach, and EO should be involved with all stakeholders to the extent possible simultaneously. And without that, it is you will again be reinventing the wheel when you go to the next meeting. One of the goals that we have to do is have a theory of change. What would change from last meeting to the next meeting, and what factors would enable us to achieve those changes? And you will find that the critical element will be to make sure that the regional bureaus are involved and make sure that they have their ears to the ground. Both have to happen simultaneously. Second, we have to play to our strengths. That is what Jennifer was pointing out. And our strengths at this point, unfortunately, are also constraints at the same time. We are resource constrained. At the same time, we are supposed to deliver more evidence-based programming, which means our organization has to gear up in particular ways towards getting more and more capacities in place to have not just evaluation, but monitoring, evaluation, RBM, the whole thing. So we have to look at evaluation not in isolation, but also in terms of how monitoring and evaluation with the small e, self-assessments, which are very important for countries. They are as much as the capital, evaluation with the capital E is important. Evaluation with the small e is critically important for countries. So we have to play our strengths to our strengths, which would involve how we are structured. We look at how we are structuring our RBM capacities, and then see how that can be tapped. Now, for instance, RBA's position now is to make sure that we have every monitoring, every country office has a RBM monitoring evaluation person, and part of that person's task is to develop national capacities. Part of their time will be dedicated to national capacities. Now, if that is the that's the first step towards at least attempting to see what is on the ground, what the demand is, so on and so forth. The third part that I want to emphasize is we should avoid parallel structures. There are enough and more communities of practices in terms of evaluations on the ground. For instance, in Africa, the World Bank recently started a MFDR 2 years ago. Very vibrant, and it is thriving. A lot of RBM issues, evaluation issues, monitoring issues, UNICEF would know that, are going on. We should tap into that. We should bring them on board, or we should be part of them in order to get the ears on the ground, get more stakeholders on the ground. It's just not UNDP. There are many actors who are serious players there, UNICEF included. So we should also actively seek in our strategy others who are on the ground to get the information. So it is important for us to have platforms. It is important for us to have knowledge management. But it is important for us to use our strengths and other strengths that are on the ground. So these are the three principles that I would say that should inform our process. Avoid silos and involve all the stakeholders. Play to our strengths and make sure that existing structures bring into your existing changes are linked to your strategies, to national because it's a UNDP strategy that's developing to build national capacities. Third part is to avoid parallel structures and make sure that we should involve everything on the ground for our be part of it, or they become part of us. One of the two. Thank you.
We are among colleagues and we are just brainstorming, so I hope you forgive me if I put on the table two issues. Mainly, I think that the key things that you should discuss as UNDP, different part of UNDP, is really the vision. And there are mainly two options. One is, three options. The old one that you already decided not to continue, that was mainly UNDP leading and doing more or less alone. That was the old option that has changed very interestingly. The second option is UNDP leading but opening up to other partners. And the third option is through partnerships where UNDP would be a co-leader together with others. And I think that that's the discussion that probably you should have internally. Because, for example, just very briefly, if you take the example of our partners, that it was initiated by IOC and at that time UNICEF. UNICEF took immediately the decision to be a true partnership, and not a UNICEF initiative. And that somehow makes the difference. I mean, it links a little bit on what you were saying. I mean, really the idea of building on what's already existing, on the bottom-up approach, etc. So I really hope that it will be possible to come up with true partnerships where clearly UNDP will have a tremendous co-leadership role to play. But if that's the vision, the idea is really to see how to maximize existing initiatives. And you know that's a way really of getting the ownership and the buy-in of everybody. So perhaps that would be a little bit one of the key points to be discussed. I mean, just to have a clarity on this. From my side, I truly hope that it will be to have a true partnership where really everybody comes together and everybody would contribute based on its own value added and comparative advantage.
Can I build on that a little bit? Sure. I just want to go down deep to the country level and to remind us of who are these people that we're talking about, because I appreciated the comment that you just made about involving regional bureaus and people closer to the ground, and that's within UNDP. But now let's go to those governments. I spoke to quite a few government representatives at the NEC conference, and many of them are bureaucrats who have been given the responsibility of evaluation. So many of them don't know what to do. They are there, they're saying, okay, I'm here. Somebody approached me, said, can you put us in touch with, the AEA? How can we learn other countries? So they're just starting. So that's one big constituency that we are talking to. So for these people, a platform where you ask them what they're going to do, it means nothing. They will do nothing. They will not even know how to get on, or they won't make the time to get on. Then there's another cohort of people who are active, who are doing some very interesting things on the other spectrum and leading, and they don't really need the NEC to help them. I mean, it's great. It gives them exposure, but they're very busy with their own presidents being advisors, and they were looking for solutions that will help them actively. They're not necessarily paid to sit there and train other people in other countries. And then there's some people in the middle. So my question when I started to you about engagement really is about how are we going to get out of our skin, out of our boundaries, and go deeply to those countries and understand where these people are and what they need. And so I think that there are a few things. First of all, building on what Marco said, one of the big advantages of Eval Partners is its grassroots. It gives an easy access to the NEC community, to grassroots evaluators, and even that is hard. But at least there is, you kind of build on a lot of momentum and relationships that have been developed. The second thing is this thing about vision that we keep circling around is critical, because it's not just what do they need. It's really, we need to see these commitments, and we really need to think about what we know to shape a vision that is a little bit more baked than just going out and saying, okay, there are these commitments, start communicating people. And so if we are able to, and I would say 9 is way too many. It's not going to happen. It's too hard. It's a lot. You're just engaging so many really busy people. So let's think about 3 things. And then let's divide forces so that we can really, I love your idea of the theory of change, of outcomes, and then we can really harness and rally who we need. And then that platform that you have will be magic. It will just enable us, I think, to go so much farther in communicating. So thank you.
I think just listening to the discussion around the table, definitely the evaluation office needs to have more discussion with the various partners that we've engaged with. One of the things we've not engaged adequately with the bureaus, which is very, very fundamental, because the bureaus represent the countries that the UNDP has a direct role in intervention with, and that has missed from the last two NEC events. And I think that's the first conversation that needs to happen, because we really want to also make sure that we have these formalistic relationships between the UNDP at a programmatic level and the countries and the bureaus, although it's a bit in the sky, and right now the reason we can't bet it, we have not had that link. But the second issue we need to look at, we've got 2015 coming up, which also is the year of evaluation. And the fundamental question is, is it going to be a big year of evaluation event, or is the NEC 2015 going to be either that event or a part of that event? Which goes back to the more fundamental issue of the genesis of the NEC event, which is largely an evaluation office in partnership with the government, moving along and taking partners along, but to a marked extent really holding the leadership of it and then getting others to come through. So that means the further discussion in-house. I'm not sure whether we're already at the point where I can commit right now and say that the next event is going to be a joint event. It may be a different morph of an event. But that also means the conversation with the OECD DAC, because EvalYear is much bigger than the UN, the IFI, and that's potentially very powerful. We can't actually leave out, the OECD DAC and the Eval Partners Network, and that's happening as soon as February. So I think we all need to think very creatively: is how do we move in a way that is systematic, that ensures that it's also concrete. I like what Nant was talking about from the ground. While sitting here and listening, it became quite clear to me that we have not engaged adequately with the bureaus at all on the NEC. We've engaged outside, and maybe that is one of the reasons why a lot of things just quite frankly fell through the cracks, because we did not understand which were the countries within the regions or the modalities. But it's important that we engage with all the bureaus, because if you're talking about a big event in 2015, whichever way it is formed, and you really want full government involvement, and this is likely to be an offering from UNDP headquarters. There's still going to be a policy advice bureau that's going to be there. A lot more critical and engaged thinking here. So there's a lot of work ahead at the planning level, and I think that planning level, that must happen first. I'm just sitting here thinking of the number of things that personally I have missed in the last 2 years that I've been here, and it comes clearer when you speak to more constituencies. So it's about, at the end of the day, we have the government, which is the fundamental client of the UNDP. And one of the offerings is capacity building and knowledge sharing. And we should just make sure we have that focus. But within that focus is how do you maximize the impact of what the intervention is. And we need to think a lot more. I don't have answers, I'm just throwing it out. It's a very creative discussion. So maybe we want to start just thinking more and engaging more critically.
Thank you. I don't know if there are any colleagues online that would like to say something before we close. No? Okay. Yes, absolutely. We started a change. I was in the last event in Johannesburg, and it was where we realized there was really no engagement with the rest of the House. Very, very little. This time around, we've engaged with country offices, with some of the regional bureaus, and more intensely, especially our bloc, and the minimum with the others and different partners. But we need to do a lot more, absolutely. And because it's no longer a conference, it's a strategy. And of course, I agree with Indra. We're not at a point that we can say it's a joint event, but I think we can say it's a joint strategy. We cannot move with a strategy to promote national evaluation capacity development alone.
we have to find a way to do it together. To get to the ground, it has to be in a partnership, in a much closer partnership. So we'll definitely continue to engage with the regions and the country offices and the different partners. But I'm going to give it to Indran to close, but I wanted to also personally thank everybody for continuing to be engaged with me. It was a very different experience from the last time the conference just died, and this one, it started many months before, not just the logistics of things, but the discussion on each of the themes and the challenges to actually get the people to participate. The conference was really incredible, and people still did not stop talking about it and coming back to and asking who else to contact. So we started a revolution, as we heard in some of the comments. We started something new, but now we have more responsibility as well to plan better and be more strategic, and don't let it die. Don't let it be just a conference. It has to be a strategy. We have commitments. We now need to strategize, build some theories of change, put our knowledge to work, and move ahead. But there's a lot more that we need to discuss. I know I've locked you in for 3 hours. I really appreciate everybody's effort. The colleagues in line must be suffering a lot. It's very challenging to follow this without the faces of everyone. But thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. And also I want to personally thank and commend Anna for the energy that she's put in to keep everyone going on this. It has been round-the-clock work, and we may all be exhausted, but I'm sure something creative will come of this. Let's continue with the discussions. We've got some time with the options and the ideas, and there's multiple things that one needs to look at. But I want to thank you for your time, both the colleagues here as well as those online, and we look forward to further collaboration. And I'm sure we will come up with a solution or something is much more impactful than what we've had historically. And we're looking at just now the modalities of what that really means. So once again, thank you, and the meeting is closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.